In 1689, political thinker John Locke stated that a basic social contract exists between people and their elected representatives. While citizens accept the politician's authority, politicians must act in the best interest of citizens, protect their rights and freedoms, and never misuse their position. So, what is the most common and devastating violation of this social contract?
This is a bipartisan issue, it's a corruption issue, and the fact that Nancy Pelosi stood in the way of this legislation, even getting a vote, is absolutely disgusting.
The arrested CEO reportedly has a close business relationship with the Hungarian foreign minister. The foreign ministry withdrew state funds from Questor.
You're right, it's corruption. Today, we're going to look closely into corruption and insider trading. We'll also see how insider trading impacts our economy and wealth. Most importantly, by the end of this video, you will learn exactly how to protect your wealth when insider trading happens. Political philosopher Machiavelli defined corruption as the decline of virtue among political officials and citizens. Economist J.J. Centuria defined it as the misuse of public power for one's profit. Corruption generally happens in conversations between people of power, businessmen and middlemen behind closed doors. And it also occurs discreetly when a person of power simply steals or misuses non-public information to his benefit. Greed feeds into corruption, and corruption feeds into greed. And there is a lot for the politicians to gain. From large sums of money and wealth to amplified power, lavish favors and privileges for self and family. When it comes to greed, the sky's the limit. Now, corruption can take many forms. The most common ways are bribery, kickback and profiting from illegal trade practices and crime, lobbying, embezzlement, nepotism, collusion, and the one we will focus on the most, insider trading. The nations that are impacted the most by corruption are the developing ones. If you look closely at this map of high and low corruption countries, the murky shadow of corruption mainly prevails over the poor developing countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. In 2012, the book Corruption in India, the DNA and RNA revealed that Indian public officials consume almost 5% of GDP. And would you believe that in Nigeria, more than $400 billion were embezzled from the treasury by Nigeria's leaders between 1960 and 1999? However, it appears that in developed economies of the West, corruption levels are overall lower. But is that really true? You will be surprised to learn that many developed nations, such as the US and UK, legalized bribery into a professional activity and gave it a classy name: lobbying. Though there are some checks placed on lobbying, it is, for the most part, completely legal. In fact, thousands of people, including many ex-lawmakers, become lobbyists. What will surprise you even more is that lobbying yields an average of 76,000% returns on investment to the corporations participating in it. That is why private interests spent $3.37 billion in 2017 on lobbying, and lawmakers turned lobbyists make 10 to 100 times more income than earlier. You must be wondering how those insane returns are possible. We will release another video about the economics of bribing. The economics of lobbying, and how you can protect yourself from it. Click the subscribe button to get notified of its release. And as more lawmakers make exponential leaps in wealth with each passing year, public trust in the system falls. In fact, public trust in lawmakers has dropped from 75% in the 1970s to a mere 24% in the 2000s. Maybe that is why public investors are growing cynical and have started tracking lawmakers' personal trading accounts and calling them out on TikTok and Twitter.
The most valuable commodity I know of is information. Wouldn't you agree?
If Gordon Gekko, the legendary trader of the 1987 super hit movie Wall Street, leveraged company secrets to make millions, then public officials could leverage the entire country's data related to the economy, safety, and everything a lot earlier than the public learns about it. For instance, in January 2020, 4 US senators were caught selling their stocks right after being forewarned about an incoming pandemic. Especially Senator Richard Burr, who got private briefings in advance about the pandemic and knew how bad it would be. And then, after assuring the public that all was well, he quietly sold off $1.6 million in stock 1 week before the markets crashed in 2020. Interestingly, he sold 3 hotel industry stocks, which tanked the worst during the lockdown. In 2020, former US Representative Chris Collins faced 26 months behind bars for passing on a confidential tip to his son and then lying about it to the FBI. Recently, all eyes have been on Nancy Pelosi, who is accused of passing information to her dear husband, who then yielded 20 to 30% returns almost immediately. Of course, she denies it, but people refuse to believe her.
In your career, has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information you received from him?
No, absolutely not. Okay, thank you.
A New York Times investigation in 2022 revealed that almost 1/5 of congressmen traded stocks in industries linked to their legislative committee work.
Members of Congress should not be playing the stock market while we're in office.
You don't own this stuff, you don't trade in this stuff, you're done.
In 2015, Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban's government was asked to step down when the state was caught selling all of its holdings in a company that went bankrupt just days after the trade. This had left public investors fuming, since, unlike the state, they didn't have the knowledge that the government possessed and lost a whopping 500 million euros. Now you understand that insider trading is not a victimless crime. By throwing a wrench in the gears of capital markets, those trading on inside information gain at the expense of others. When one gains, somebody loses. And half of the US families that own stocks directly or indirectly are at the losing end. Imagine how many people's stock holdings got wiped out at the start of the pandemic. Moreover, insider trading weakens the public's confidence in financial markets. And if the common folk decide that the system is rigged, they won't invest. And if they won't invest, capital inflow to the market will decline, causing liquidity crunch. The cost of borrowing significantly increases for a company whose stock gets involved in insider trading. The company then spends more on servicing more expensive debt and has less money left to create more jobs, or it might even have to cut jobs. Let's have a look at how states have tried dealing with insider trading. Back in 2012, Barack Obama signed the STOCK Act, the Stop Trading on Congressional Knowledge Act. It had a singular aim: to restore America's faith in the lawmakers. At a time when public trust in the government was at an all-time low, the act banned trading by congressmen on non-public information and made it mandatory for them to publicly declare their trades. Yet more than 74 lawmakers to date have refused to reveal their activity. Politicians who violate the act receive a fine of just £200. Quite a scary amount for those with multi-million-dollar investment profiles, I know. And even that is generally waved off by the House or the Senate ethics officials. In 2017, the UK Statistics Authority stopped providing early access to economic data to public officials 24 hours before the public release. This action alone led to a significant reduction in insider trading ahead of the release. On the other hand, Singapore's strategy to prevent corruption was to not punish greed, but feed it just enough to keep it quiet. Over there, politicians get million-dollar salaries, so they wouldn't have to resort to corruption. Strange, right? But there is public rage over it. Citizens demand why so much of their tax money is going into politicians' pockets. As you can tell, corruption, lobbying, and insider trading are tricky issues to solve. Now here's the moment you've been waiting for. If you feel as if nothing could stop these politicians, then it might be time to make the best out of a bad deal. Wouldn't you agree? Well, the 2012 Stock Act did give us a little goldmine. Websites like capitaltrades.com, housestockwatcher.com, and senatestockwatcher.com help you track the stock activity of not just public officials, but their families as well. On these websites, you can filter your searches by politicians' names, their political party, their asset class, and trade size. If you see an activity that could go against your investments, investigate further. If you're convinced something bad is about to happen to your investments, take your money and run. And then call out the politician openly on social media and inform more people about it before your fellow countrymen also lose their money. If you think you could copy politicians' stock activities blindly, think again. A research paper by the National Bureau of Economic Research discovered that, on average, the stocks bought by politicians tend to underperform, while the stocks sold by them tend to outperform, which is really not a combination you would want. Finally, it is important to realize that while some politicians may have tricks up their sleeve, you have the power, as a voter, to determine, change, or completely derail their career's trajectory and save your economy from greed. Well everyone, that wraps up our video. What are your thoughts on insider trading by lawmakers? Are there any other topics you'd like us to cover? Tell us in the comments below. If you like this video, please make sure to give us a like by clicking on the big thumbs up icon. It really helps us out a lot. As well, make sure to click the subscribe button to stay notified every single time we put up a new video. Also, if you liked this video, please make sure to click the share icon to send it to your friends. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm off to check upon that senator's latest trades.